Steve Gardner does a real good job covering baseball for USA Today. Kind enough to join us for a couple of moments. Trade deadline right around the corner. Always good to catch up with you, my friend. How you been?
Busy, Rich.
I know you have. That's why I'm not going to hold you. Let me ask you this real quick. The Chicago Cubs will win the World Series due to the acquisition of Aroldis Chapman. Yay or nay?
I say nay because I think they might have won it even if they hadn't gone out and gotten Chapman. So they're the best team in baseball to me right now, and just getting Chapman makes them that much better.
What about the return of investment with the Yankees and what they were able to get in return for Chapman?
No, I thought it was a great deal for both teams. You know, the Yankees needed an influx of young talent, and Chapman was going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So in getting Gleyber Torres, the shortstop,
yes,
a teenage shortstop, a fantastic prospect. And the Cubs have such a deep farm system that they could afford to give away somebody who is that good. And, in addition to Adam Warren and a couple other guys. So I think it'll work out good for the Yankees because they probably weren't going to re-sign Aroldis Chapman, and it'll work out fine for the Cubs, too, because now they've got a bolstered bullpen and a guy who can go up and get those tough left-handers. You know, they may end up facing the Nationals, and you need somebody to get Bryce Harper out and
Sure.
Daniel Murphy.
You mentioned Bryce Harper. It's funny, too, because I'm looking at what Cashman's doing right now, or the way it appears he's setting things up. I mean, if there's one player they can get some value back, I don't think Nova's going to be on this roster come the trade deadline. But you mentioned Chapman, basically a rental player, is going to be a free agent. The Yankees didn't do a lot last winter. It seems like they're saving their pennies up, so to speak, for down the road to maybe throw a king's ransom at Bryce Harper. I mean, does that? They're totally in rebuild stage. You called it at the beginning of the year. They were old. It was going to catch up to them. They're struggling mightily. But it just seems as though as long as they're teetering right around 500, they still believe they have a shot at the wild card.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're hanging around. And, Brian Cashman, I think their GM, has wanted to do a bigger overhaul and a bigger rebuild, but the front office or the management is reluctant to sign off on that. And the Steinbrenner family has been in that win now mode for forever, and it's hard to kind of let go of the fact that you're not going to contend because the Yankees have made the playoffs so many years over the last 20. It's unusual to miss the playoffs, and it's not something that they want to really consider, but probably for the long-term health of the franchise, that's the best way to do it. And now they just have to work with Cashman and see what kind of deals he can make and to see if they'll sign off on it.
Bring it back in our backyard with the Phils and Jeremy Hellickson. Scouts from the Rangers and the O's were both in attendance last night when the Phils played the Marlins. He pitched another gem. I mean, he's going out. He's giving them 6-7 strong. It looks like he's really just picking up, pitching brilliantly over his last several starts last month or so. What are you hearing regarding Hellickson? Do you think it's a foregone conclusion that he will be moved by the trade deadline here by Philadelphia?
It depends, I think, on how serious the Phillies are at trying to get maximum value for him. Obviously, Hellickson doesn't really have a whole lot of value for Philadelphia. It's what he can bring in return.
Right.
And so far, the asking price has been very high. When the Marlins have come, or the Rangers, or the Orioles, or whoever has talked to the Phillies, the price has been, one of the top 4 or 5 prospects in your system. And, I think that seems a little too high, but it's no harm to ask. And certainly at this point, with the deadline still, several days away, you can continue to ask for the moon and see if anybody will, kind of bite on that. And as we get closer to the deadline, I think we'll probably see the asking price on Hellickson come down, and the Phillies eventually move him for somebody because, Jake Thompson in the minor leagues looks like a fantastic prospect, having a great year. He's 22 years old, and he's on the same rotation schedule as Hellickson, so he can slot right into the rotation if a trade gets done. I think that's probably the likely scenario. It just depends on, who blinks first when you start talking about negotiations.
I did not think, and I double checked the numbers, and I do have to correct myself in one regard. I did not think Howard would have really any type of trade value, but I know he is drawing some trade interest per several reports. I'm just curious, is there legitimacy to this? I mean, can you see a team showing interest in Ryan Howard? Obviously, an AL team. I was thinking maybe Kansas City because everything's starting to slip away, and they can use another at bat. They can use another power bat.
Yeah, although I don't know, I think Kansas City may be more of a seller than a buyer right now. I mean, they're not playing exceptionally well. All the things that broke well for them over the last 2 years seemingly are breaking against them this year. Wade Davis has been a very popular guy. It may be that the Royals, with looking at the asking and the price that the Yankees got for Aroldis Chapman, and closers, even going back to Ken Giles last year.
Yeah.
I mean, those top closers, Craig Kimbrell, another guy. You see what teams are getting for those closers, and that may be too tempting to resist. I mean, just think the Nationals would love to have Wade Davis. Now, whether the Nationals would be convinced to give up somebody, like Lucas Giolito or Reynaldo Lopez or one of their top prospects, that's a question that may have to be answered, may get answered for all we know, if the Royals can maybe add some more to that. But still, I think the Royals in this case, they may be better off to sell and start looking toward 2017, 2018. They've got a lot of free agents coming up in the next couple years. They're going to need to start rebuilding at some point, and now is probably not a bad time to start thinking about it.
No, and of course, the 1 year they're looking to defend, you turn around, you have Cleveland playing on lights-out baseball. So you're right. I mean, sometimes it's not your season, especially after last year when they were able to win the World Series against the Mets. You mentioned Howard, too. 2017 option includes $10 million buyout. I'm not really too concerned about the average in 75 games with the strikeouts. People are probably going to look at the 14 home runs, the 30 RBIs, and close to about 240 plate appearances. So maybe, like you said, maybe there's a little interest. I'm curious. I know I got to let you get out of here. I really want to get your thoughts on this to kind of close out. Chris Sale. What did you think of the whole cutting up the jersey, didn't want to wear the jerseys? Because the last time I checked, teams wear throwback jerseys. And is there a lot more to this that's not being publicized? Maybe there's some dissension in that organization right now.
Well, Chris Sale is a guy who is not afraid to speak his mind. I mean, we saw that at the beginning of the season with the Adam LaRoche situation. Sale is one of the biggest defenders of having Drake LaRoche, his son, in the clubhouse and not restricting the access. That said, he is the star of that team, really, and the fact that pitchers, when they pitch, get to choose in almost all cases which uniforms they wear. The White Sox wanted to wear throwbacks. I think Chris Sale felt like they weren't comfortable, or they were the dark jerseys and it was a hot day, and something along those lines. I think he felt like his position, he was being told what to do, and it would affect his performance and might affect the team's performance. And some of the comments I saw from him were, I want to win. The number one objective is to win, and this team needs to be committed to that. And maybe if that is, what he was protesting, certainly not saying that what he did was the right thing or a smart thing, but that was his feeling and where he was coming from. That said, he's such a huge piece of that franchise. He's on a team-friendly contract, so I don't expect them to want to trade him, or at least try to trade him, because if you're going to rebuild, there's no better player for the White Sox to do that around than Chris Sale.
All I'm saying is when you start to rock the 78 White Sox jerseys, I'm starting to get flashback to Jorge Orta, Ralph Garr, Don Kessinger, Chet Lemon. I mean, I think Chet Lemon cracked 15 homers that year for your 78 White Sox. So again, look, I get it. He doesn't want to wear the jersey, but I mean, come on. At the end of the day, are you really going to sit there and complain about a jersey, and you're going to sit here and say, well, they're more concerned about winning. I mean, they're more concerned about marketing than winning. I'm not buying it. I'm not.
Yeah, he's very outspoken, so he probably does believe that. Now, whether that is the case is maybe another version of the truth.
Last one, 30 seconds before I let you get out of here. How in trouble are the Dodgers if Kershaw just can't get it right health-wise?
Well, number one, they're in very bad shape for a playoff situation if they even get there, because I think pretty much everybody else will have better pitching than they will. So that means then now they have to think about going out and getting somebody. You know, can they trade for, you know, they're one of the few teams that may have the deep enough farm system to maybe make an offer for a Chris Sale or somebody like that. So the Dodgers, if they decide to go out and make a trade, then they could be a possible force. But as they're constructed right now, I don't think so.
Always appreciate it. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot of stuff to do. Trade deadline right around the corner. Hopefully we'll sneak in a couple minutes next week. Appreciate it, pal.
Sounds good. Take care, Rich.
You got it. Steve Gardner, always a very good follow on Twitter. Great stuff at Steve A. Gardner.